Support for Walk and Talk Media comes from Metro Food Service Solutions, trusted by kitchens that need storage and workflow that actually does the job. Learn more at metro.com. Most people think the restaurant industry starts in the kitchen. It doesn't. It starts long before that. It starts with who decides what gets bought. This week in studio, we're looking at the mechanics behind the plate. Tony Cuba, buyer for Halpern Steak and Seafood in Orlando, is approaching 21 years in this business. His path wasn't linear and it wasn't handed to him. He started packing product, moved into outside sales, stepped into buying, among other roles along the way. He understands chefs because he's worked alongside them. He understands pressure because he's taken the calls. He understands sourcing because he's lived the consequences of getting it right or wrong. Tony grew up in a Puerto Rican household with Virgin Islands influence. Food was cultural, emotional, family-driven. That perspective doesn't disappear when you step into distribution. It shapes how you evaluate product, how you build trust, and how you support the chefs who rely on you. In the kitchen with us is Chef Cody Tiner, chef owner of District South. 17 years in the industry, raised in a small southern Florida town, classically trained, southern-rooted, scratch kitchen through and through. Cody has built a neighborhood restaurant that feels like a living room. Not pretentious, not performative, just honest food done at a high level. He breaks down his own fish, cuts his own steaks. He leads a young team, mentors high school culinary students, and loves it. Two different lanes of the industry, one shared responsibility. Product doesn't matter if it's not respected. Distribution doesn't matter if it doesn't understand kitchens. Restaurants don't exist without supply. This episode is about relationships between buyers and chefs, between sourcing and execution, between heritage and hospitality. Because without distribution, there is no industry. And without trust, there is no distribution. Let's get into it. Chef Cody, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Let me just start real quick. I want to give a shout out and a big thanks to Chef Ricardo Castro for the connect for today, for you being here. And then I need to tell you, big ups for actually getting this done and getting here. Last minute.
Thank you.
Yeah, like it was yesterday, late morning. And you'll talk about some of the hiccups that you had right after our phone call, but you still managed to get it done, get here, and execute some amazing dishes.
Yeah, man, that's what it's about. Curveballs.
It's always curve. I mean, the industry's not, there's no shortage of curveballs.
No, there certainly isn't.
All right. Before we get into anything, let's talk dishes. You had a couple of bangers today, right? Let's start first with the fish.
Sure. Yeah. So we did coconut grouper bites, which is a staple on the menu since we opened. Coconut shrimp is like huge for me. Like if I see it, I'm ordering it. Don't care if it's frozen. Like gotta have it. So we wanted to do our own version of that and create a more Florida feel to it and use a byproduct from our vendors, kind of help them out, helps us out with cost. And we made these coconut bites out of grouper trimmings from our purveyor. And we served that with some remoulade made with Duke's Mayo and house-made orange marmalade.
Which mayo was that?
Duke's Mayo.
So it gets me. I know that I'm not supposed to be judgmental, right? And I work really hard on that. And it's the truth. When I'm with a chef on a phone, for like a pre-call, what are you thinking, chef? What do you think you're going to do? Oh, I'm going to fry something. Oh my God. It hurts me a little bit. I'm like, man, I want something elevated. But I also want to keep the integrity of whatever it is that you cook in your restaurant. What you're doing over at District South is elevated, normal food, like American style, just really solid food. So when you said, hey, I'm going to do fried grouper, I said, okay. I didn't, fine. But how you executed the grouper, flaky coconut, like the look of it was really terrific. And then you actually take a bite and it's fantastic, especially with the orange marmalade. And oh my God, it's fantastic. The aioli, Dukes, By the way, let's talk about that real quick. You love them.
Yeah. Yeah, we use a lot of it. Their branding is great. My life has kind of become a little bit of a small joke about how my love for Duke's Mayo. It's almost an obsessive at this point. There's a Duke's Mayo neon in our restaurant
So I'm a proponent of mayonnaise. John, as everyone knows who listens to the show, is not a proponent of mayonnaise. However, I am. And when you brought this up, I was like, yeah, no, get the logo out of here because, who are these guys? Let me tell you something. I took a spoonful of this Duke's mayo. You taste the egg. It had like a fresh bite to it. It was pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's got the tang. That's their slogan.
It's got the tang. So let me tell you. So anyway, normally I would never bring that up in this capacity like that. I think they deserve it. And since you're such a proponent of them, hey man, here we are talking about it. Dukes. All right. Talk about the second dish.
All right, so second dish is concept dish we're working on for a new menu item, and it's a nostalgic dish for me. So it's a play on chicken and dumplings. So to kind of turn that into my own thing and elevate it for restaurant quality, I mean, this dish is typically like a stew that you have on Sundays. We wanted to push that up a notch, so we essentially removed the biscuit dumpling style and turned it into a Parisian gnocchi. And then instead of like shredded chicken in a sauce, we did a white wine gravy underneath with mirepoix and then pan-seared airline chicken breast over the top.
I'm not sure what to say about this dish, other than the fact that it was gorgeous. This is one of the best photos. John, I feel like this is upper echelon of photography with this dish. The colors, the plating, how you set it up, the whole thing, man. And what makes it best is the fact that it was delicious. Legit delicious. So I've been eating gnocchis all my life. And this was different. I've not had gnocchis like this before.
Yeah, these are really fun. They're Parisian style, so it's essentially made with a savory pâte à jus, which is the base to eclairs. But to do it in this style, you essentially like boil them like you would a traditional gnocchi and then pan fry them, and they're just light and airy and really consistent with the humidity. In Florida, it's tough with potatoes, so this is a good way to make a light, consistent dumpling.
They're light enough to where, like, I know I would murder an entire pound of that by myself, like that night. I know I would do it. I've done it before, with traditional gnocchi, obviously, the cheese-based ones, but this, man, I think I would get in trouble with those. I would get in real big trouble with those.
I'll send you the recipe.
Forget that. I'm coming in now. Anyway, that has to be on the menu, by the way. I know that this was like exploratory or whatever. Nah. No. That's a winner. John's shaking his head. If this man here, John, if he's even making a head gesture, you're a winner.
Awesome.
He doesn't talk. It's like he doesn't exist except for photography.
Walk and Talk Media is proudly supported by Rack Porcelain USA, creating durable, beautifully designed tableware for chefs and hospitality professionals. Learn more at rackporcelain.com.
Oh my gosh. The last thing I want to say about that, speaking of photography, and in a minute I'm gonna usher Tony on, and he brought it up, and it's true. But the way that you seared, the way that the gnocchis were cooked, and the way that the chicken was cooked, the searing on both were very similar. It looked so good. And then the dish selection, #rack, the dish selection was perfect. Colors, I mean, the whole thing. And then you had the pea tendrils popping with the green. My God, I really dig this dish.
Thank you, man.
I have a feeling that's going to end up at the 2026, best of the year. Walk and Talk.
Love it.
I'm just saying. I know a guy, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be in there. Tony, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Are you glad you came here or what?
I am, actually. I'm very surprised.
I know that you were skeptical. I know you were.
A little.
And so were you, by the way, Cody. I know you were skeptical also.
I didn't have time to be skeptical. I just kind of went with it.
Well, it's Tony, hold on. You had everything fall apart yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a plumbing leak, and then I had a couple of meetings out of the building and had to prepare for this. Had catering prep to do, regular service. So shout out to my team.
Shout out to your team. I felt a disturbance in the force. I don't know what it was. I felt it though, and I'm like, man, I have a feeling somebody's calling out. I don't know. I didn't know who it was going to be. I thought it was going to be somebody, but no, Everybody got here early. It was pretty amazing. I am shocked at how awesome today has been, just because it was, what happens in the back of the house stays in the back of the house, right? So I'm not going to get into the nitty gritties and stuff, but man, today was executed almost flawlessly. It was perfect. My man, Tony. Did you enjoy this?
I did. It was funny. We showed up at the same time too. But I was skeptical because I saw some truck following me and I was like, oh.
21 years, same company, Halperns. You started as a packer, working the floor, jumped into the dark side. You were in sales, outside sales for a little while. And then you landed in purchasing. And you had some other stuff as well. What's the correlation between working the floor in a warehouse to where you are right now?
It was the understanding of everything. Because when I was in production, you're pulling, you see the names, you see the companies, the restaurants. You don't really see anything further than that. Getting into the sales position, you see now you're hearing about the quality of the product. You're seeing excitement with the chefs. So combining the two, I had a better understanding of what it is. To me, when I used to pack, when I was a packer, I wanted to pack it in a way that when the chef opened it up, it's like a present. They would see the stuff, they would get excited about it. And then as a salesman, doing an emergency bailout, like we were kind of discussing before, it I don't know, you have like a sense of of achievement that you've done something. Even if it's something minute is bringing a piece of fish, in an emergency situation that they needed. I mean, the excitement that I used to get from doing that, I don't know, I fell in love with the industry.
There's something special about your salesperson and chef relationship. Same or similar to delivery driver and chef. There's some bonds that get created there. When the kitchen or the restaurant, when they can count on their salesperson, their driver, stuff like that, things get done. Things get done more efficiently. When there are hiccups, everybody understands things are going to get taken care of, and therefore things don't get blown up. And that's how you keep clients. And that's how chefs keep purveyors. Being that you were in sales, what do most chefs misunderstand about distribution, and what do distributors misunderstand about chefs?
Distributors, we can tend to get focused on price and logistics, and that can kind of throw us out of whack. So that kind of it's a little bit of a disconnect with the chef. But I feel like the disconnect from chefs also at times is when, especially when food costs is like hitting through the roof and going super high, they kind of tend to veer into a more economical or cost effective item. And I feel like it kind of takes away from what the true quality of the dish was.
I have to tell you, I know a few people over the course of 25 years that have worked with Halperns. But those are friends of mine, people I knew. I'd never met anybody from within Halperns. So I always had this preconceived notion that it was like this nameless, faceless sort of organization. And I was really wrong. And I'm saying it on the podcast. You guys are pretty cool. You do a really, really good job. And it starts with really great salespeople. It starts with good buying. Not good buying. Bye. It starts with good purchasing. So when you're evaluating product, what are the top 2 to 3 non-negotiables for you before something actually hits the floor to be sold?
Well, just a little bit of a background on Halperns. A lot of people don't understand that most of the people that work at Halperns and have been at Halperns for several years are chefs, or they've been in the industry for years. Most of the people that are actually working with us were in the nitty gritty of everything. They had restaurants, they owned restaurants. They came on board and to jump onto the procurement side. What we don't sacrifice is the quality, because we understand we're chef driven. We're built. The foundation of our company is built with chefs, with the same understanding of food. So we never want to compromise quality. I know a lot of times might not be the cheapest person out there, but we never compromise quality. And that's what keeps it consistent.
There's a lot of hidden factors to distribution, warehousing, trucks, drivers, pullers, pickers, salespeople. It's really so many layers inside of an organization like that, especially one to scale. It's one thing if you're the local family distributor. You got yourself 5 trucks, and you've got your handful of clients, and you make a good life. It's a whole nother thing when there's 15 opcos and you're out there and you're it's hard for that to be controlled from the top. And that's where I always got this nameless, faceless sort of opinion. And some companies that are out there aren't like that. Obviously, everybody has to do what's necessary from corporate, but they're running it like their own operation. I think, to me, that makes a big difference. And I think that's kind of where you guys are. And I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. Tony, you mentioned living the consequences of getting it right or wrong. What does wrong look like in your world?
Late shipment, running out of product. Oh yeah, that was definitely wrong. I mean, the disappointment. One thing I used to always strive for is under promise, over deliver. Because you run into those situations, the trucks. I've had all kinds of situations. Trucks on fire, being delayed because of storms. I mean, and you're talking about a chef that's waiting for something for a holiday or a big function or party. I mean, if you don't have a relationship there, those can definitely ruin relationships with clients.
I got a call one time. It was around midnight. The driver who was doing a transfer run, he parked the rig about 3 hours south of where the warehouse was. Said he left a key under the tire and he quit. This was like a truck full of main items that you need just like for the next day to be able to operate. This is the stuff like nobody knows, nobody hears about, and frankly, nobody cares about because, you got to pull up your big boy pants and make things happen. But that's the kind of stuff that actually goes down. Forget the flat tire or a breakdown. Those things happen on trucks all the time. It's another thing when employees lose their minds and do stuff like that. Chef, from your side, what makes a distributor invaluable to you? What separates a transactional rep from a true partner?
I think some of the stuff that Tony was just bringing up is like really important in terms of his excitement to be able to solve a problem for a chef. Like that goes so far. When you tell me a few days before that you're out of stock of something and then, I end up getting it anyways, that's that kind of stuff where, this guy's going to go to bat for you. If you are out of something, he's going to bring it to you. Those moments are so invaluable. And especially like with what you just said about employees losing their minds and not showing up, or, we know that both sides deal with this thing. And for your rep to be able to bring you something, or for you to be able to go and get something that you forgot to order, like them being there for you is probably the most important part for me as opposed to transactional.
It's as simple as answering the phone. The problem is with a lot of reps, and this is no dig on the industry at large for that position, but when it gets tough, when things are going wrong inside the building, inside that warehouse, and the chefs know that something is wrong, and then that salesperson goes silent. And then you got the chef, 1:30, middle of a rush. And he's like, I'm just trying to get a hold of somebody to talk to. Where is this person? That is, I'm an awesome salesman 101, just to answer the phone, regardless if it's a mistake or not. Like, even if you can't help them, if you can't do anything for whatever the reason, pick up the phone.
That's so huge. I would rather you just tell me that you can't do something. And if you have that level of honesty, like you have my respect and you'll have my loyalty, because I need to solve the problem regardless. And your silence helps nothing.
Support for Walk and Talk Media comes from Crab Island Seafood Dip, creating chef-driven crab dips made with real seafood and bold flavor. Learn more at crabislandseafooddip.com.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. I've been the one to be silent. I mean, in the beginning stages of when I took on the responsibility of being a salesman. Yeah, I mean, you were petrified because you didn't know how the chef was going to react. You didn't know if you were going to get screamed at. I mean, those are things all those things were running through my mind at the time. And yeah, I did make that mistake, but I'm glad I did because I made it early on, and I knew that I had to correct it, because if I jumped on it and you know what, you take the grenade, you go with it, the chef will respect you a lot more. And I've learned that. I learned that over the years, because I did make that mistake as a beginning rep.
What's really interesting about this is that even if you're from the industry, I did 10 years of restaurants before I got into distribution. I know don't come in during lunchtime. I know all the basic stuff, but I still didn't understand the weight of the GM, of the chef, even in some cases, the restaurateur, the ones who are hands-on. So when I first got into sales, when I was maybe 25, 26, something like 27, something like that, I crapped the bed constantly. And it took me a little bit to learn the footprint of the kitchen. And I remember this. I was the golden boy at my alma mater when I first started in produce and sales. And I opened, I don't know, like $70,000 of a weekly business in a very short period of time. And then I got so cocky. I was like, whatever. Chef would call me, hey, I need something. I would look at my trusty sales report, right? I would look and see, $800 a week? Nah. Yeah, I can't help you out. All right, well, you know what? I can't count on you. I'm out of here. Okay, whatever. I got, 100 more just like it. And then all of a sudden, all that, and this is a true story, like all that business, it disappeared. Literally all of it within inside of, I don't know, maybe 5-6 months. And, the bosses bring you in. What the hell is going on with you? And I'm like, I don't know. There's something wrong with these people. And then they sit you down, they roll up the newspaper, and you get the whack across the nose. When you're almost let go from a job that you enjoy, you really have to do some, introspective thinking. And I did that. And then that changed me. And from then on, I was the guy that answered the phone at 5 a.m. I was the guy that answered the phone at midnight, whatever it was. If I have to drop off a box of potatoes at 7 p.m. because you need them, I was that guy. Changed my entire career. And these are the things that have to get done. But like Tony, you were saying, you need to experience being a dummy first, because that's how you learn. It's unfortunate, but you have to be a dummy for, not everybody, I guess, but a lot of us have to be a dummy first before you learn.
It's really true in kitchens as well. You get cocky once you learn a new station, you think you have it, and somebody knocks you down a peg and realizes that, hey, I don't see the entire kitchen. I'm just looking at my station. Yeah, that kind of stuff happens in that world as well. And I think just to touch on the point that you guys just made about the answering the phone thing, we as chefs run on a different timetable than you do. So your 9 to 5 is not a 9 to 5, because my job is 9 to 9 or 10 to 12. It's, if I don't have ordering questions until 7 p.m. and you're out of the office, that sucks, because I need that relationship to be past 5 o'clock.
There's a special breed of person to be in the kitchen to begin with. There's another special breed of person to deal with people who work in the kitchen. Okay. And here's the thing. And here's how it works. And a lot of people on the restaurant side don't recognize this. Not that they don't understand it. It's just they don't think about it. But let's just say you work 6 days a week and you get your 1 day off. Okay. Well, you have your sous come in or somebody else fills the spot. They're calling the same rep. So the rep is 24/7, 365, right? Because your restaurant might be open 5 days a week. Who knows? But all the other ones, institutions, hospitals, school, whatever, like you're 365. That's where burnout comes from on the sales side. And you have to really figure out who you are as a person, if this is for you or not. And you know what? Sometimes it's not for you.
Oh, that's super true. There's a grain of salt in there. Most companies that are not, I'm assuming Halpern's is not open on Sundays, or you're not taking orders. There's somewhere in there that a lot of companies don't do that. That being said, on my days off, I'm still answering questions too. It doesn't stop when you walk out the door, just like it doesn't stop for you. So
chefs are a whole other thing, man. Like it's one thing when your line cook clocks out, that's one thing. It's another thing for the chef. You're on the phone, you're on call. That's walk-in breaks down. You're back in the building.
Yeah, it's never ending, but I love it nonetheless.
It's the same thing on us too. I mean, we're probably closed maybe like a half a day on Saturday because, Sunday comes, we're up and running, getting orders ready for Monday. So it's really and on the flip side, on the sales side, they're not only dealing with you or other chefs, they're dealing with the warehouse. They're dealing with inventory situations, before they even get to you. So yeah, it's definitely, you have to have a certain level of patience when you jump into this industry.
It's really funny. And I think it's a little bit different today than it was like 20 years ago. Management would instruct salespeople, do not contact the buyer for any reason whatsoever. Stay away from these people. Like, why? What's the problem? There's 20 salespeople. You have 20 salespeople, and they're like seagulls chirping at the beach. Chirping? No, is it chirping? Squawking? Whatever. They're like just out there with question after question because the chef has the question and the rep may not know the answer, and they go to the buyer, and it's so on that Saturday. Yeah. The chefs have questions for Monday delivery. And then you got to take the orders for Monday. And you're doing that on Sunday too. A normal person would take a look at this. Nobody should ever work in this business. Like, we're all psychos to be in this business. It's the truth.
It's masochistic, that's for sure.
Yeah, but we love it. Like there's a real desire to serve people. When you make this switch from the food side, the restaurant side, and you move into, the distributor side, yeah, there's some clowns and there's some fakes and slackers or whatever. Most of the people that are working within this food industry, regardless of the spectrum where you are on it, they love it. Chef, when pricing fluctuates and the supply tightens or product specs shift, seasonally, whatnot, what keeps the relationship between you and the company you're buying from?
Open communication. I mean, instantaneously open communication, especially when you see shortages on your end and they're coming, or even if you don't, if it's a last minute thing, if a price changes and you don't communicate that, especially whenever it's a big one, when it's a main mover, like if you're not actually reaching out to your customers and talking to them about that, that's a problem for me. I think that I'm much more willing to deal with the price change and figure out what to do with it as opposed to not having a conversation and then being frustrated with the company as a whole.
85% of the time, there's a fix.
Oh, yeah.
There are circumstances where there is no fix. It is what it is. I can point to, avocados in May, iceberg lettuce, certain time of the year. It's, it happens.
For us, one thing I kind of learned early on was, if I didn't have it, I tried to look for a substitution. Because one thing we don't understand is a lot of substitution for everything. I mean, if you have lamb, there's probably 3 or 4 different types you can buy. You can get imported from New Zealand, from Australia. I mean, there's different varieties. So a strong sales rep will know their product. That way they can offer those substitutions. I mean, you're going to have those cases where you can't do nothing about it. I mean, it's something that, if you have no grouper, you have no grouper. But there are other species that kind of taste like grouper. So why not offer that first? That's kind of one of the things I started really, really driving into is how can I learn about my company and what we offer as a company to be able to create options?
Yeah, you kind of said it better. I mean, knowing your product, that's so key. And the reason why I have so many vendors is because of that. It's the guys that know their product and know how to substitute. They don't ever get switched off to the next company. I hold a lot of vendors so that I can look at pricing across the board and make sure that, people are being honest and I'm not getting rolled over. But that right there is the key to our relationship, is knowing your product and having a conversation about how you can fix something or being able to say that you can't.
This session of Walk and Talk Media is made possible by Citrus America, delivering fresh Florida citrus and juice solutions to food service professionals nationwide. Learn more at citrusamerica.com.
Both of you grew up in culturally rooted households. Tony, how does the way you grew up eating influence the way you evaluate or execute in buying today?
I grew up eating household food. We never really had the opportunity to go out and eat very much. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money to go out to eat a lot. So I definitely grew up with home cooked food, and my understanding for how, the freshness, the making stuff from scratch. I mean, that kind of helped propel my career in this industry due to that. And, it was a shock to my life after, I grew up, I moved out, and I went to a restaurant, or I was introduced to a fine dining restaurant. I mean, it blew my mind because I was like, wow. But what I did really, really respect was, you ever ate something and it kind of brings you back home, like that flavor profile that just like, man, just brings you back home, brings that memory. That's kind of what I got with when I went to my first fine dining restaurant. I was just like, man, this kind of reminds me of when my grandma used to cook.
Most people who work in this business, regardless of the sector, always have something to do with their mother, their grandmother. Everybody. Even if your father or grandfather cooked, it has something to do with your grandmother or mother. It's I don't want to say it's baffling because easy to put a finger at that, but it's very interesting. And Tony, you were going to be a police officer. How did you do this?
When I was going to school, I did the whole ROTC thing. I almost joined the military. I really liked that structure, and I always wanted to be an FBI agent. That's kind of like my thought process was. And, I think it was in 2005 when, I got the opportunity to work it was Gary's Seafood at the time. I was just like, okay, you know what? This is an interesting field, and I was in the specialty department, and I was like, man, I really like this. And I grew up watching Food Network. Chop was my favorite show. So I started seeing the items that Chop was using on the show, and I was like, man, I have that. I've handled that. Oh, wow, I've packed that. And then, I was like, you know what? I started buying little things here and there because we were allowed to buy. And I started cooking with it. And I was just like, trying to breed my own little Chop at home. What can I create with this, And it just, that's what blossomed into the passion that I have for food.
And, when you have that in personnel, like, for example, chef, if you have an underling in the kitchen and they have that sort of passion, there's that mentorship opportunity. That, oh, wow, this guy has like life in their eyes, can teach them.
Easily. I love that word, underling, too. It's so true. We have quite a few on our team right now that have that level of passion. You can see these stories coming in from them as well. And I mean, anyone who's worth their salt in this industry has these stories.
Chef, you break down fish and steaks in-house. And Tony, you understand buying whole animals and the specs behind that. How important is communication between, let's just say, the two of you when restaurants are operating at that level?
For me, it's making sure I find the right spec for what the chef's trying to do. Because a lot of times, it is good for a chef to cut their own steaks. Sometimes it isn't. It isn't cost effective. Depends on what they're aiming for. Normally we would always tell the chef, hey, we can cut it because we have avenues for all the byproducts, the vein steaks, the parts that no one wants, and a lot of times that knowledge of bringing it to them, like, hey, listen, you're throwing your tenderloin scraps into a burger. I mean, you just elevate your burger to almost $15 a pound. It's that understanding with where you're going, what direction you're going in the dish, and giving you the right spec that helps you meet that need without breaking a bank.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Like, not a lot of people say that on your side of things, but to have that knowledge is crazy. The only reason we break down our own steaks is because we're rendering the fat for tallow so that we can cook our steaks in it, or any meat products, beef products in tallow, and then all the silver skin and connective tissue gets turned into an au jus that we use for another sandwich. So we're not having any waste there, but some chefs don't understand what their labor cost is either. That aspect of this plays into it a lot. How long did it take to do that? How do I add that cost to the per poundage of that meat? And is that number lower than buying the steaks already cut?
Well, there's two parts to that. There's the dollar amount on pre-cuts, but then there's also like, is my staff good enough to keep the consistency and also not put me out of business?
Yeah, 100%.
No, but I did love what you said about that. I mean, I feel like it's a lost art. I mean, utilizing everything about what you have, like your scraps, like you said, you utilized every orange peel that you get from these. I mean, I feel needs to be brought up more with, especially the new up and coming chefs, because I feel like that's being lost. And that's, to me, that's what we call old school cooking. I mean, where you utilize everything about the animal, utilize everything from the blood down to the skin. I mean, that is where it kind of brings me back to what I was talking about, the home cooked type of meal. We couldn't afford to throw things away. We had to utilize everything.
I'm definitely in the same boat with that, and that's why I cook the way that I do. I've been fortunate enough to learn from some chefs as well, but and continue to learn. So like being able to cross utilize everything, it also allows for us to not focus entirely on what that price is. You know, I can buy a little bit nicer quality because I know that nothing's going to go in the trash, or I'm cross utilizing this and saving here, so I can afford to up the quality here. And the more that you dial in on that, the more that you have like versatility in terms of the product that you're able to purchase.
That's a terrific segue. By the way, before I get to the segue, I just want to say that Olivia is a badass, and she's the one that connected, Tony and, so I just wanted to give a call out to Olivia Ward. Badass. So the both of you have been in the business for a long time. Okay. And with that, we're talking about underlings and, mentorships and things of that nature. What does the next generation need to understand about supply chain and sourcing? Because it's different today than it was when you guys got into the business. So you have this understanding of the past and where we are today. So that means you got to learn all those techniques, Chef.
I think the big thing for them to learn is fabrication and technique is crucial to your bottom line, and how you purchase really affects that. I also think that, within mind of the past, like I have 8-9 vendors for a small restaurant. It's a lot, but being able to cross platforms and hold people accountable for where pricing is, or trusting the relationship and understanding like, hey, don't switch this over. Like, we'll work something out with you and we'll make this work. Like, having those conversations is important too. So just constant communication with purveyors and understanding that you're gonna have to hustle in order to really hit that bottom line with your technique, and not just, oh, well, I want this and I want to cook it and that's that. There needs to be more intention behind it.
4 out of 5 hospitality professionals have faced at least one mental health challenge during their career. Stress, burnout, anxiety. These are everyday realities in kitchens, dining rooms, and bars across North America. The Burnt Chef Project North America is here to change that. They provide free, anonymous support, direct care, training, and self-care resources designed specifically for chefs, servers, and hospitality staff. From therapy services to educational modules, they're answering the call for help in one of the toughest industries. It can't be done alone. Your financial support makes this possible, ensuring that every hospitality professional has access to the tools they need to thrive. Join the movement in breaking the stigma. Email uscanada@theburntchefproject.com for donation details and mailing information, or learn more about the mission at theburntchefproject.com.
For us, what I feel like is timeless is relationships. Relationships with our vendors, relationship with our customers. That's something that, honestly, is something I want the next generation to kind of focus on, especially in this industry for us as a purveyor. Relationships where it's at. I mean, we have relationships that are deep rooted with our vendors. I've had vendors that I've worked with for over 20 years. I've had chefs that I've worked with for over 20 years. I mean, that's something that I feel like can be brought forth to the next generation. That's something that will never change. It will always be utilized. It can always be utilized in this industry, and it will never grow old.
I used to beat the same drum when I was on distribution. Accountability. That's the bottom line. If you wake up in the morning, and let's presume that you get up and you do your work, because you're not clocking in. It's you get up and You're just supposed to go out and do what you're supposed to do. To the chef client, home base, if you're doing that, everything falls into place and you're going to succeed and you're going to be a winner within the organization. Similar to chefs, line cooks, whatever. Get out of bed, get here, pretend you like it, and eventually you will learn something.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, accountability is huge. You know, I think positivity and accountability are wildly, wildly undervalued.
Agreed. And I say pretend you like it. Hardly anybody gets into the restaurant industry because they love it.
Until you do.
Until you do. Usually it's like, man, I can't get a job anywhere else. And you find yourself working in a restaurant. But all of a sudden, you're like, this is chaos. It's semi-controlled, but it's chaos. This is kind of interesting. The personalities are the same in every single establishment. The people who work on the line are the same people that work on the line in every restaurant. The hosts and hostesses are the same in every restaurant. Like, you can interchange these people. It's like a comedy show, if you ask me. And it's the same thing on the distributor side. It's the same personality type for each different department. It's insane how that works. There's a place for everybody.
The amount of deja vu I get from working with this current staff to previous staff of like, wow, I've had this conversation 6 times, like with 6 different people.
It's the same thing on our side. But there's one thing I wanted to add. Like one thing that one of my mentors kind of told me, it was actually Mr. Halpern's son, and cause you told me you started off as a dishwasher, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think what one thing I want to teach the new generation is do not. And one thing he always told me, he kind of tell you, when you walk into a restaurant, you greet everyone as their equal. You don't just go straight to the executive chef. You don't go straight to the sous chef. No, he would greet every single person, from the dishwasher to the line cook to the cleaner, because you never know where that person is going to be in their lives. I mean, look, you came from a dishwasher to an executive chef of your own restaurant. I mean, that's amazing. And that's one thing that he kind of taught me, and I kind of stuck with it. So every time I would go into a restaurant, I would do that.
It doesn't even have to take you started a dishwasher and then 10 years later you owned a restaurant. No. You can be in the pit today. You can be doing the dish today. And in 2 weeks, like you move up that quick. Many times it's because of necessity, there's short staffing and, hey, I'm using the Hobart machine today. And, now I'm learning how to, work the grill. Like, it works. That's how it goes.
It is. It really is. It's definitely a teach yourself industry. I mean, you got to move up on your own.
Tony, where is distribution heading? So there's this whole digital age now, right? Where I can just order my stuff on my phone. I can put all my orders in, now there's AI people answering for customer service. It's pretty scary.
It is. But you know what? There's some good to it. I mean, we are kind of moving into the automation world, where a lot of things are becoming more automated. There's AI helping us too in our programs and stuff like that, which kind of helps alleviates a lot of mistakes, a lot of situations, but the core is still going to be there. That's what I can say. The core is still going to be there. Yeah, we might have automation, we might have robots moving boxes around here and there, but the relationship core is going to still be the same. The relationships with the customers, with the vendors, are still going to be exactly the same. I don't see that changing at all.
It's not going to be something like, hello, my name is Olivia. It's not going to be that?
No.
Okay.
I know. Maybe for the ordering process, they're going to have something similar to that. But no, as far as the relationship with the sales rep, no.
And by the way, Olivia does not have that same voice. Just want to throw it out there.
That's a good point before you go on. I'm sorry. This automation thing, there's so many times where it's like, yeah, I don't want to have to talk to a rep because I need to just place this order and keep about my day. However, like yourself with Halpern, like you guys shoot out these sales sheets or these specialty items that are currently around, that kind of stuff is not going to just be known if we're constantly in automation. Sending that relationship is super helpful. We run 4 or 5 specials every single weekend. And that's so that we can create consistency in the menu, but still keep things fresh and keep creativity in the kitchen. And we don't get that without you guys being able to send those sheets or saying, hey, I have a deal on this right now. You know, if we're a little bit short on steak, well, let's move this direction. I've got this going on. Like, those things are not going to be able to be automated.
No. You're right. You're right about that. That's what I was saying. That's the core that will stay the same. What I mean by the operation side is more like moving boxes, product moving in like on conveyor belts so we can get it in faster. It speeds up the receiving process, which helps us more focus on getting more product, getting new products. But no, as far as the core of what this business is about, that's not going to change.
One of the biggest challenges working in a warehouse is inventory and lost pallets of product. When you're talking about perishables, man, that's a killer. And then somehow or another, that pallet gets on the floor, and even though they're not supposed to pull from it, they do. And then chef opens up a box of soup in it's a soup in a box. It's like, I didn't order soup in a box. I really wanted tomatoes. Do you know what I mean? I think that's where the technology is going to be a super, super winner.
Yeah, to alleviate, common mistakes from people, misplacing boxes, all that will kind of eliminate all the mistakes. And, that's what I say, but the core is what's going to stay original.
Chef, District South was built as a neighborhood spot. It's approachable. It's elevated. It is not pretentious. You are not pretentious. Here, at least in the studio. What happens on the line, what happens at the pass, I don't know. But how does sourcing support this philosophy of freshness, of elevated but local?
To keep things as fresh as possible, the sourcing is super important, but I don't think locality is entirely the importance to me. Where the product come from is less relevant as opposed to the quality of it. As much as I enjoy using local stuff and want to support local people, I'm after the best quality product for the best price. And not everything needs to be super high-end fine dining either. There's two ends of this spectrum. I love American cheese on our smash burger. That is not a quality cheese, but I also love the quality of the fish that we get in, 2 or 3 times a week. And that is extremely high quality and is as fresh as I can get it. And keeping our staff honest with the way that they're cutting and holding and preparing it. It's not just sourcing to plate. There's so much in between from Tony's side of things, from the purchasing on his end to getting to me, to getting to the plate. There's just so many layers to that. And I don't think that there's just one right answer to that. The big thing is, are you paying attention and do you care?
Gentlemen, if there's a young chef or there's somebody within the warehouse that wants to move up, in your case, Tony, right? What should they understand about the invisible system that supports their future?
I think a big thing for young chefs or young people coming into the industry on either side is it is less about a spreadsheet and what your profit margin is, and more about like what level of care are you giving to the ingredient. Whether that's packaging, like you said earlier, like wanting to make that look like a Christmas present to chefs, like that's such a cool way to look at that. And it should be like that for young chefs as well. When you get to utilize a product that you're not used to, or you're in that uncomfortable zone of utilizing something that's extremely expensive, like it can't just be about the spreadsheet. You have to care about the ingredient, and you have to have a desire to learn about how to use it and respect it. So it's not just one-sided of, I'm only looking at a spreadsheet and I'm only teaching you about how to make a profit in a restaurant. I'm teaching you how to cook and how to appreciate cooking and pleasing people.
I've seen it in my experiences working with chefs and working with people in warehouses, where you get into the routine and you lose the spark, and you're either the chef is ordering their product just based on what they think they need, and that's it. They don't care. There isn't any more depth or thought. It's really just a checklist. The same thing can happen on the distributor side.
No, it's 100% true. I mean, in order to grow in this industry, in our field, what I would do with a lot of the younger guys that I would bring up into management and into higher roles is I would tell them, hey, learn about what we do. Learn about the history of the company. Learn about how we started. Learn about the products that we sell. That'll give you a better understanding of where you want to go in this industry.
You know, you just brought something up, really big deal. You have to get buy-in from these people, and they should learn about the history. And with chefs, so there's two different parts here. And lineage isn't as important on the warehouse side as it is in the chef side, right? It's just different. You can, I guess, in certain companies, you can, trace back and you can get an excitement for that. But in culinary, my gosh, the history of food, if you can't get excited about that and then turn it into like a passion to learn how to do things right, I don't know. I think you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. You guys were fantastic today. Even you, John. Fantastic. I am going to be going with my wife to your place. Okay? District South. You and I are going to have a lot of conversations. Chef, how do we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Cody Tiner and at District South Tampa.
Tony.
Instagram, Tony E210 GR. It's kind of a car thing. You can find me on halperns.com or my personal email, Jesus, JESUS.Cuba, CUBA at halperns.com.
Excellent. John, I expect the photography to come out expeditiously, sir, as I want to get this out to the public. We are out.